Hello friends, once again welcome back to the third lecture of business letter. So in last lecture we have seen the concept of business letter in a precise manner. Before that we guys have discussed about different purposes of writing business letter. After that we guys have discussed about the concept of business letter and how it is useful for the business organization also. Moving on to the next one, after that we have also seen the concept of business letter, and now we are here to understand the principles and the logic that can be applied for the purpose of business letter. So if you want to go for business letter, there are certain principles that we need to follow while going for business letter. Suppose you are a writer and you are going to draft a business letter. In that case, certain principles are followed. So those principles we are discussing here in today's lecture. So friends, as I told you, we follow certain principles when we want to write business letter. In every business organization, these principles are followed. So there are 5 principles that I'm going to tell you, and those principles if you follow while writing business letters, definitely your business letters will be impactful. It will create impact, it will create very nice impact in the mind of reader, and this is what these principles should be followed in your day-to-day practice of writing business letters in business organization. So the first one, that the first principles we are going to discuss here is you attitude. So see, this one is a very famous principle as far as principles of writing business letter is concerned, and that is you attitude. You means what? Whenever you are there to write a business letter, do not write your letter and that will be your centric. So remember one thing, suppose as a writer what should be done? As a writer I have to take care of one thing, that is attitude. So attitude of the writer should be, attitude of the person who is writing a letter should be you attitude. You attitude means what? He has to think about the person who is going to read the letter. He has to take care of all the things which are expected by the reader. And when you write reader centric letter, it becomes you attitude. So this one is the concept of you attitude. You people have to keep yourself, the reader has to keep in the place of reader, and accordingly he has to write a letter. And when this kind of letter is written, it becomes you attitude, remember. And this is the concept of, or this one is the principle of you attitude. I hope you guys have understood. Suppose I see, when I am there to read the letter, I also expect something from the reader, and if I take care, if I take a care of those things which is there in the letter from the reader side, that is expected here, and that attitude is called as you attitude. The second principle is also here, that is clear and concise. Mostly what happens, as I told you, in business organization we write 2 different types of letters. Those are short letters and lengthy letters or long letters. In both cases, whatever you want to convey, that should be very clear. Suppose I want to convey one message, but if I am not giving that message clearly, then definitely the reader of the letter will be confused. So we are not there to confuse the reader. We are there to make clarification about the things in the mind of reader, that is expected. Then apart from clarity, there should be one more thing which is expected in the letter, that is concise. Letter should be very concise, should not be that much lengthy, should not be unnecessary information we need to mention there. So whenever you are there to write a letter, think about the clarity and conciseness of the letter. Conciseness means what? Whatever we want to convey, that should be conveyed. There is no need to write n number of things unnecessarily in the letter, that is expected. And when we avoid some unnecessary things, irrelevant things in the letter, it becomes concise. So as a writer of a business letter, you people have to take care of 2 different things, and those 2 different things are clarity and conciseness. Moving on to the next one, and that is the third one, correctness and completeness. Whatever letter you are writing here, whatever letter you are writing for your business organization is concerned, as far as accuracy is concerned, as far as correctness is concerned, it should be very correct, it should be very accurate. And if you take care of correctness and accuracy, automatically it will create very good impact in the mind of a reader. As well as it should be a complete letter. So whatever you want to say, that should be written in a very very complete manner. Do not avoid anything, do not ignore anything else, do not go for incompleteness as such, and that is expected here, and that is very important aspect as far as business letters are concerned. And here we are going to talk about two different things here, correctness and completeness, and that is expected, and that these are the two different principles of business letter. Then emphasize positive side. Whenever you are there to write a business letter, as a writer of a business letter, you need to emphasize on positive aspects of the letter. There is no need to highlight the negative sides of the letter. You need to highlight, you need to emphasize on positive aspects which are there in your letter, and that should be highlighted, that should be emphasized by the reader, and that is expected. And if you take care of this principle, automatically it will create a very good impact in the mind of reader, and that is expected here. So always emphasis on positive side of the aspects or of the letter. And the last but not least, that is one more important aspect, important principle of writing a business letter, that is courteous and considerate. Most of the time we should be very very humble, we should while writing the letter. At the same time, whenever you are there to write a business letter, we should be very courteous and considerate. So we need to be very humble, we should be very polite while writing. We need to use polite language, we need to go for formal language, we need to go for official language, we need to go for humble language, or we need to write letters very humbly, and it is called about courteous. Then we need to consider the mind, consider the mentality, consider the attitude of the leader, and that is what we need to take care of. We need to consider certain aspect of the reader, and that is what we have discussed at the first principle of business letter, that is you attitude. Whenever you follow this first principle, that is you attitude, automatically we can consider n number of things directly or indirectly as far as principles of business letters are concerned. So friends, what I have told you as far as this so here in case of this principles of business letters, so what we guys have discussed about certain principles which are useful for writing business letters, and those are you attitude, clear and concise, correctness and completeness, emphasis positive side, courteous and considerate. So these are the important principles of writing business letter, and if you take care of all these important principles, automatically you can write a very good letter, and that letter will include all these principles. And definitely when such kind of letter is written, this will create a good and very nice and huge goodwill of the business in the minds of readers. This is the concept, this is the only thing that I want to share with you guys today. And here I must say that we have discussed something about the principles of business letters. Moving on to the next one, that is achieving the U attitude for guidelines. See, as we guys have discussed about U attitude for U attitude while writing business letter. So if you want to achieve this U attitude, there are certain guidelines we need to follow. If we are able to follow those guidelines, there are only 4 guidelines, and according to, if we follow those guidelines, automatically we can achieve the target of U attitude. So here we are discussing about how that U attitude can be achieved, and this is what they have given 4 different guidelines, and if we follow that, automatically we can achieve those 4 guidelines. We can achieve that U attitude. The first one is never forget that your reader is a real person. So we are writing letter to a real persons. Remember, we are not writing letters to the trees and non-living animals. Even they are also living animals, but we are writing this letter to a person who is having some emotions. So take care of their emotions also. It means what? Don't forget that we are writing this letter to a real person who is having emotion, who is having certain thing, expressions and all. So always take care of their emotions and don't forget that they are real person. Next one is what? Avoid writing cold impersonal letters. So don't go for impersonal letters and cold letters and like that. So whatever is expected, that should be written, and that is one more important guidelines as far as achieving the U attitude is concerned. Keep the reader in the forefront of your letter. So this is what I told you. If you want to achieve this U attitude, automatically you need to be very, very reader centric. You need to be reader centric. You need to take care of n number of things of the reader, and when you are able to take care of all those things of the reader, automatically you can achieve this target of U attitude. Then be courteous and tactful. As I told you, while writing business letter, and if you want to achieve U attitude, you should be very, very courteous. You have to show courtesy for your reader. At the same time, you should be very tactful. You have to use some tact to attract the customer, tact to make happy your customers and all, or your readers and all. That is expected here. Be neither boastful nor meek. See what happens mostly when we go for writing a letter, and if you think about achieving your attitude, we try to show something which is not in real. So do not do like this. Try to achieve this your attitude by following these 4 guidelines, and if you are able to achieve those that particular target, automatically you get everything for your business, and that is expected here. So this is the concept of U attitude and the guidelines which are given to follow, which are given to use, which are given to achieve U attitude for business organization while writing business letter. Only this much for this lecture. The next portion, the next part will be discussed in the next lecture. Till then, just wait and enjoy.